Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Hash It Out Show. I'm your host, JB, your sports guy. Tonight, we have a big show. Two special guests. Later on tonight, we have the head coach of the Tulane baseball team, Coach Jay Uhlman, whose team won the AAC conference tournament. But right now, our special guest, he's taking his team, the Nicholls State Colonels, to the NCAA Baseball Tournament as they won the Southland Conference Tournament. We have Coach Mike Silva. Coach, thank you for joining us, and how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
Most definitely. Coach, I want to start off with this. When the Nicholls job became open, you said you were drawn to the opportunities at Nicholls State. What was it about Nicholls State that made you want to become their head coach?
Yeah, I think the community of Thibodaux, South Louisiana in general, just the culture and the opportunity. Look, it was a long time ago. This was one of the better baseball programs probably in the country, and it had been dormant for to be honest, a long time. And challenges. I think a lot of times the biggest challenges you take create the biggest opportunities for yourself. And I needed somebody to take a shot on me. I've been grinding away at this thing for a really long time, and I needed an opportunity. And coming down to Thibodaux and checking the place out, and understand the history of the program and where it had been. And I think a lot of people thought it couldn't get back there, and now we're back. I'm drawn to that. I'm a low percentage guy. My story is I've been a grinder and a worker, and I had to fight and claw for every opportunity. And I just felt like the community and the baseball program and the university needed somebody that not only wanted to be here, but really truly believed that it could be an NCAA caliber program again.
Let's talk about the Southland Tournament championship game against UNO. What was your reaction? What was your feeling when you guys got the last out and you became Southland Conference Tournament champions?
Yeah, it was. I don't want to say relief. It was like it's euphoria, right? You're embracing your coaches and your players. And look, a lot of these young men were here before I got here, and they were hopeful to get into a conference tournament, and that was their goal. And to try to transition that mindset from try to make a tournament to try to win a championship, and talking about standards and what that means, and then. Just seeing them transform from, I thought they were champions before I got here. They just didn't know really how to do it, right? And how to go about it. And I thought they needed somebody to kind of show them the way. And they bought into everything I've asked them to do since I've gotten here, since I showed up in town. They bought in. I call it drinking the Kool-Aid. This community's bought into me. And so to get to see everybody celebrate like that, it's a surreal feeling. It's a very humbling moment. I don't want to say out-of-body experience, but it feels like a little bit. And just because all your goals that you set when you got here, you start checking them off the list. The week before, we won the regular season championship for the first time in school history. And then, going in as a one seed, that's hard. It's hard to repeat and run through the tournament. So to finally get that final out and see that look on our kids' face, knowing they're going to go play in the NCAA tournament, it was extremely gratifying.
You and your team watched the selection show together. Talk about that for a second. How did it feel to be with your players watching it?
Yeah, it was awesome. Our players, our community turned out. We had an unbelievable turnout. Our young men had to sign autographs for close to an hour afterwards, and just getting to see them get that experience. And then this is an extremely prideful community. And so just to see them turn out and them get to have that experience too, because so many people here have opened their homes, their hearts, and their checkbooks, to be quite honest with you, to invest in our program and our young men, to give them an experience and give them the resources to go and achieve something like this. So it was really special. My family was there. My wife and son were there. My staff's families were there. And then all the people that support us in this community were there. And that was really special.
Before passing on to VK Jones of CrescentCitySports.com and George Peppers of CrescentCitySports.com, my last question to you is, you're going to the Tuscaloosa region. Mm-hmm. You, Boston College, Troy, and of course, Alabama. Talk about this region. This is a tough region.
Yeah, it's really tough. And, Alabama is probably one of the most, they're the number 16 overall seed and the one seed in their own regional, but they're better than that. They're an Omaha caliber team with just talent up and down the board, experienced talent, older guys, electric arms. And then, Boston College, they probably should have hosted. I mean, you go look at their resume and what they've done this year. They should probably be a host. I'm sure they're going to come in with a chip on their shoulder, feeling like they should be hosting their own regional in Boston. And then, Troy, I coached in that league for multiple years in the Sun Belt Conference at two different institutions, and that's really good baseball. It's one of the top baseball conferences in America, and they're really good. They have a really good wire-to-wire in that league, and I know the type of players they have in their roster preparing for this, and they're going to be as good as anybody there. So we're going to have our hands full, but that's what you want, right? This time of year, everybody's good, and so it's going to be a lot of fun.
Coach, we appreciate you taking the time to join us tonight and everything. And I met you in person a couple weeks ago in the UNO series and everything. And I wanted to say you're doing a great job with the program and everything else. And I'm proud to be also a Nicholls student as well over at Nicholls State, and you're doing some great things. The question I wanted to ask you, Coach, your experience. It's a lot of experience you have on your belt. You've been a part of some big runs for Louisiana Tech in the past, and also you worked in Major League Baseball as well. How much of that experience is you bringing upon your players and also future recruiters coming to Nicholls?
Yeah, I think a lot of it. You try to take bits and pieces of everywhere you've been and do a really good job communicating with the young men that you coach. I feel like I do a great job communicating. And when I got here, I dove into our community. I feel like when you take over programs, sometimes coaches go in and they think the community is supposed to adjust to them, right? And I think as a coach, as a head coach of a program, your job is to go and dive into the community and connect and find out what they're about and embrace their culture and try to become a part of that as soon as possible. And I communicate that to our players. Our players have done a fantastic job being involved, community service. We're everywhere. We show up everywhere. Our young men they're everywhere. They're at youth games. They're at camps. They're at everything that you need to be at to show people that it's bigger than just baseball. And then on the field, yeah, it's been huge, just life lessons. And I've learned from so many great people in this business, and I've been fortunate to have so many opportunities. I just try to share it with the young men. I'm a relationship guy. I like when the young men come by my office, from their locker room. They walk in my office, sit down and visit. People in our community are in there all the time. And what I've tried to teach them is just to embrace that. It takes everybody, and just to really embrace that. And the baseball side of it's going to take care of itself.
Well, what are your thoughts? It seems like the last 5 to 6 years, Nicholls Athletics has been coming up. We're looking at how football has turned around. We looked at how men and women's basketball has turned around. And now softball's doing okay. And in baseball, the way it is coming up. What are your thoughts on how Nicholls Athletics have been getting better and better, especially under a lot of the coaches and also JT Terrell's tutelage, especially as a small college?
Yeah, I mean, look, I could go on. We could spend the whole show talking about our administration and JT. I think if you see how he and I communicate together, how he interacts with our student athletes and with the coaches, he hires really good people first and great coaches second. And he wants the student athletes to have a great experience. And he hires people that believe in the same vision that he has. Look, the thing about JT that a lot of people, he was a student athlete here. This place is really special and important to him. This community is really important to him. And I can't go understated how big of an impact he's had. He's the reason I'm here, right? I mean, we had an instant connection through the interview process. We connected. I consider him a personal friend of mine. And just from a leadership standpoint, he's in the trenches with you. He's in the trenches with the student athletes. He's in the trenches with the coaches. You feel that presence. That's really unique. It's not like that everywhere. And I've been really fortunate over the last handful of years to work for several athletic directors that had that same pedigree, that same type of, hey, we're in this together. We're going to do this together. And sometimes, from an administrative standpoint, you almost feel that separation between the coaches and the athletes and the administrators. You don't get that here at Nicholls. If you spend 2 seconds with JT or Dr. Clune or the rest of our administration, and it's extremely personal. And I think that's why you're seeing so many great results on the field.
Well, as a you mentioned you're a relationship guy as a coach. What are your goals as a coach more than anything else, especially as a head coach, especially the way you are at Nicholls, how you're leading your team? What are your goals for your players?
Yeah, I just want that. I want them to graduate. I mean, that's first and foremost. I want them to graduate from college. And we had some kids this year that were first generation college students and then first generation college graduates, which is really important to me, more important than what goes on the field. And then I just, like I said, I just want them to be invested in the place. I'm a big believer in be where your feet are. I think so many times people look at the past or look at the future and get caught up in it instead of living in the present. And all I know is we have today, right? And try to make every day a positive experience for them, but every day a beneficial day for yourself as an individual. And I tell our student athletes that, like, today's an important day we don't get back. Let's take advantage of it. And I think when you do that, good things happen. And when you have the right values and the right processes in mind, and I'm a big process guy, and when you do that, I think good things happen. And I've been really fortunate to have some great student athletes. I tell the student athletes all the time, I tell my players all the time, players win championships, players put programs on the map. Leaders create the environment for them to go out and be successful. And that's what JT's done. That's what our president's done. That's what I'm trying to do.
Last question for me, and I'll pass it down to George Peppers. Um, the Alabama region. I know you said is very, very tough and everything else. You have a 34-22 record, very good record, and a tough schedule in itself. Do you think the tough schedule will prepare your team for tomorrow? And what is your team's mindset hitting the road going to Tuscaloosa?
So, first part of the question, yes, I do think the schedule is going to help them in that environment. It should be electric. It should be sold out on Friday night against Alabama. We played in a sold out environment in Biloxi against Mississippi State. The game didn't go the way we wanted to, but the atmosphere was electric. And then, we went to Alex Box Stadium twice to play against LSU. Went on the road and played against Nebraska. So I think being in those venues against those types of programs prepare you for this moment. And then the team's mindset, look, they're a really close group. I mean, these guys do everything together. They're really close. We're a family. Somebody said to me the other day, when your guys do interviews, they sound like you. And he said, what's your response to that? I said, my response is I sound like them too. We're a family. And I think they feel that. And so I think we're all really excited to get on the bus tomorrow and head to Tuscaloosa. And we're looking forward to the opportunity. I don't think we feel any pressure. I just feel like we know it's a tremendous opportunity. And I don't think we're ready to be done playing with each other. And so, I think that's really important. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And we're just excited, just a lot of excitement. Practice, it was awesome today. They were bebopping around, and they're extremely proud of what they've accomplished. And they're extremely excited about the opportunity in front of them.
Coach Silva, first of all, thank you for joining us, and congratulations on you and the Colonels making it to the NCAA tournament for the first time this millennium. 1998 was the last time you guys got there. First off, let's talk about the conference season in review. It was extremely highly competitive with how this conference played out. You won it. Got in as the one seed, but I believe the separation from one to the back was 3 games, I believe. Tell me about how the way the conference played out. How does it prepare you for this? Does it prepare you now for this setting that you're about to undertake in Alabama?
Yeah, I think so. I think if you go look in our conference, some of the teams and the teams that they've beat, for whatever reason, our conference doesn't get a lot of respect on the national level, I feel like right now. And you look at teams like New Orleans. New Orleans is an NCAA caliber team, in my opinion. I think they have NCAA caliber players. You look at Lamar and non-conference going on the road and beating Texas A&M, winning series against Kansas State, and going on the road. They beat some other people too. I think it just speaks volumes. I mean, Southeastern didn't make our conference tournament. They went on the road and won 2 out of 3 at Auburn. And so I think that tells you why we so highly contested. And then playing in a race like that, I tell people all the time, I feel like that we were playing in a postseason game really from the start of conference all the way through to the last game of the conference tournament, because we were right at the top of the conference, either in first or second, pretty much all year, and everybody's right on your tail. So you didn't really have a chance to come up for air, take a deep breath. You just kind of kept trucking along there and trying to find ways to stay up there. And so we were fortunate to win the conference. There's definitely some extremely deserving teams that finished below us. And then going into the conference championship game, I think it was validation, right? Because the race was so tight. And for us to run the table in the conference tournament against those teams, I think it was huge. I think it proved that we were the best team in the league this year, and we deserve to be in this position.
Agree. I want to talk about the conference tournament, especially your first game, which went 14 innings. And usually in the Southland, pitching isn't exactly a depth piece, to be honest. I mean, teams have good starters and whatnot, but you guys only use 3 relievers. And I feel like that the bullpen set the tone for you guys for the rest of the tournament. Talk about that game and how it really propelled you as the tournament kept progressing and ultimately winning the conference championship.
Yeah, well, that's an easy one. We got quality starts every game, 5 innings or more. And then our bullpen, I think, threw 17 in a third with, I think it was 31 strikeouts and 4 walks. And anytime you have those type of numbers, and they give up 1 earned run. So, yeah, they were nails all weekend for us. And you guys know how it is. Even if you watch Major League Baseball, you build the team really from back to front, right? Because you can't win games if you can't finish. And people can say whatever they want, but the final 3 outs are the hardest ones to get. And our guys just kept answering the bell and getting it done in pressure moments. And I was really proud. The bullpen didn't make the moment too big. They just kind of went out and made pitches. And I always say you have to make peace with the outcome and trust your stuff, and they did that. So I think that was a big factor in us winning this thing.
And the enthusiasm from the community in Thibodeau on it, to be honest, is, and I know that community pretty well. It's very palpable, very passionate about their athletics down there at Nicholls. Been there, done that, seen it. It's well deserved that y'all won this, and I guess I'll piggyback off my next question. When you look at this regional, look, the teams that are in there are of the highest quality. Alabama, one of 10 SEC teams in the tournament. Troy, one of 4 Sun Belt teams in the tournament. And Jared mentioned Boston College. You could have argued that they could have hosted. Um, what is I mean, obviously the goal is to get out of the regional, but looking at how this thing is set up, how are you guys going to approach this tournament?
That's one game at a time, one pitch at a time. It's really the same way we approach the conference tournament. I go into postseason games like this, like Game 7 of the World Series. We're going to take it one pitch at a time, one game at a time. We'll announce our starter, and then everybody's going to be available. We feel like we got to take care of business, and that first game is going to be really important and extremely challenging. But look, I told our players today at practice that everybody's good this time of year, and you're in this position because you've earned it and you deserve to be. And so you can't shy away from this moment, and you got to look forward to it. You got to embrace it, and you got to go out and do us. We're going to play baseball extremely aggressively, like we have all year. We're going to throw strikes, play catch, try to put pressure on them on the offensive side of it, and whatever happens, happens. You got to kind of make peace with the outcome before the game.
And my final question, a lot of projections before the tournament was announced yesterday had you guys going to Baton Rouge. Felt like a little bit of a curveball that y'all now going to Tuscaloosa. Were you a little bit surprised by that? Or did y'all have a preference, or does it really matter?
No, I didn't have a preference. Obviously, I have the utmost respect for Jay Johnson and the LSU program. It's an extremely storied program. Everybody knows about them and what they've done and what they're going to continue to do there under his leadership. So it would have been an extremely tall task. But I'll be honest with you, going to Alabama, I mean, I think it's just as daunting. I mean, I think they're an Omaha caliber team. They're a team that I think could win the national championship. And so I honestly didn't have a preference. And people were calling before, like, do you have a preference? Where do you want to go? And I didn't. I was just really happy that we're in the tournament and we have the opportunity to continue to play, and we have an opportunity to maybe do something special. Somebody's got to do it, so why not us?
Coach, I got to ask you this right quick about, a couple of your best players have been really coming up well for Nicholls. Zane Washington, Edgar Alvarez, Garrett Felix, and Gerardo Villarreal has done well, and Wes Toops. Can you tell us which player has been really a true leader for you, but not just that, which player has really stood out for you, especially in the late comings, the end of the season, the way things
Zane Washington. I mean, those guys are all phenomenal players. Zane Washington's been our best player from start to finish on a position player side of it. He carries our program. He's unbelievable defensively, offensively, on the bases. I can't tell you enough superlatives about him. He's an impressive young man. Offensively, carries us. Defensively, he had a huge play in the tournament. And we kind of marched to the beat of his drum on the offensive side of it. Those other guys are phenomenal. Edgar Alvarez, Garrett Felix, Wes Toops, Parker Cadu on the defensive side of it. I mean, I go on and on about those guys. But Zane was the most outstanding player at the tournament for a reason, because he's the best player that we have. And when he goes, we go.
And it's something else looking at your bracket is the fact that, we've been seeing over the years that a lot of teams, sometimes that top team, falls sometimes, and, the lower seeds come up big in the regionals, and if you guys can pull some strings, handle some business, and come out of Tuscaloosa, things don't get any easier, because the number 1 seed in the tournament will possibly be waiting in the super regionals. And that's
there's no doubt. You don't know what's going to happen. Look, I tell our players all the time, and you guys know, look, we're a David in a world full of Goliaths. That's just the truth being at Nicholls. And I think we embrace that and we understand that. But, in defense of that, like I feel like I have really good baseball players here. I feel like our players are really good. They're Division I players too. They've won championships too. And, Zane's hitting like 370 some. I'll put him up against anybody in the country. And so, we have tremendous amount of respect for everybody, but we're going to go out and play with confidence. And look, you survive in advance this time of year, right? You don't really worry about the next one. Just survive in advance. I think we're going to take that mentality. We're going to go have a lot of fun. We're going to play with no pressure. But would we like to shock the world? Absolutely. Would we be shocking ourselves? I don't think so. I think those guys are extremely focused right now.
I have one more question, Coach. Jacob Myers, let's talk about him as a true freshman. Talk about the process of getting him to Nicholls. And I don't know who was out there besides you guys for him, but talk about how big of a contribution he was to you guys in your rotation as a true freshman to do what he did.
Yeah, I mean, the superlatives go on and on, right? I mean, his numbers speak for themselves, and he's been our best guy from start to finish. Look, he wasn't a recruited kid, and that's probably the coolest thing about this job. He was very under-recruited. He didn't have anywhere to go at the end of his high school season, and we knew who he was, and we recruited him, and we were really fortunate and blessed to get him to come to school here. He's an outstanding young man. He's going to pitch at the next level. I mean, he's got a chance to be a big leaguer. He's that type of stuff and that type of talent. But yeah, to get a player to that caliber, and then he developed. He wasn't a blue chip kid coming out of high school, but his work ethic and the way he approaches it every day and how he shows up to work and he handles his business. And then, even more important than that, our older guys realized really early on that he was a special talent, and they put their arm around him and brought him along. And I think they deserve a lot of credit as well.
Coach, we'll get you out of here on this last question. You've been coaching for many years, and you said your main goal is to make sure your players graduate as the head coach of Nicholls. But my question is, why did you want to become a head coach in the first place?
Just because you have to control this thermostat and you have to lead young men. People impacted my life through this game at an extremely high level. When you get older and you're coaching in this business, when you have the opportunity to lead young men and feel like you're making an impact, it's extremely empowering. It gets you out of bed in the morning. And, to be the leader of a Division I baseball program in the South, in South Louisiana, in such a baseball-enriched state, it's a privilege, right? And to be entrenched in this community and I guess have some leadership ability in the community. It's a privilege every day. And so, look, I get out of bed every day. I tell our players in the first team meeting every year, I need them in my life a heck of a lot more than any of them need me. And I learned that a long time ago. And I think it really helps me stay grounded and stay focused on what really matters. It's all about them. It's always going to be about them. My job is try to empower them and help them grow. And I hope this game impacts them the same way it impacted me, because everything in my life, every paycheck, my wife, everything has been through this game. This game's been extremely good to me. And I hope that they get the same benefit from the game of baseball as I've gotten.
Most definitely, Coach. Coach, we wish you the best of luck in the Tuscaloosa region. Also, congratulations on a successful season, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you guys very much for having me, man. I really appreciate the visit. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Coach.
Coach.
Coach Mike Silva, the Nicholls State Colonels baseball team. And ladies and gentlemen, I have to apologize first off, because in the introduction, I surely forgot to let my co-hosts introduce themselves. That is on me. I made the mistake. So to my good friends Vashawn Jones and George Peppers, I apologize for that. That is on me. I apologize. I'm so sorry. I was just rambling with the Jay Uhlman, and I went straight to Coach Mike Silva. So I apologize, fellas. That's on me.
No, you good. You good, because I think what you did was kind of, it wasn't offensive to us, and I think it was something good, because I think you was running on timetable and you're trying to make sure Silva was in and out. So you did the right thing. So we good with that. You still introduced us through the interview. So we good, man. Because I knew it had to be something you might have forgot, but it's probably you had timetable in your head because of the fact we got coach early. Let's get it over with and all that. And I like to apologize for doing what I did earlier. I think I got to start saying excuse me before you end the interview, because it was just an interesting question, because players wasn't mentioned, and then we had to talk about the players who's involved, and also what could happen if Nicholls win the division, win the region. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm looking at the bracket and I'm like, wow, that I know Nicholls have a opportunity and a chance in Tuscaloosa. It's still a tough region, but I think they have an opportunity and a chance. But who they go against after, it's like, wow,
Well, definitely. George Peppers, your thoughts on this Nicholls Colonels baseball team as they head to Tuscaloosa? Tough task at hand in one of the toughest regions there is, to be honest with you.
Of course. I think it feels like, on the surface, the novices are going to tell you that they're up against it, that, oh, it's Nicholls. They're playing the big bad Alabama, SEC. Can't touch that. And, watch this Colonels team play. They are a very good group. They are a very cohesive group. They beat UNO twice to win this to win this tournament. It always felt like it was going to be those two at the end, though. With as mentioned before, we started talking about the Southland tournament last week, that UNO won 4 straight series to close out, 3 in the conference, and I told you guys I thought they were playing their best baseball late, and the 2 losses they took was against this team. I think the Colonels are not going to disgrace themselves. This Southland conference was wide open for a reason. There's something to be said when you're basically playing for your seeding every week. You're playing to get into the conference tournament, because if you don't make that, guess what? You're sitting home and you're not going anywhere but that. But I think the Colonels, they're not going to just. They may not win the regional. And look, I love what Coach Silva has done down there, and I feel like he's going to do more uh, as the seasons progress for him. It's a great community, Thibodeau, and we all know this. We've all been down there. They support that program. VK and I went to a football game at Nicholls the season before with Incarnate Word, and that crowd, despite the cold, there was a lot of folk there, and it was great enthusiasm. And I think this baseball team, I don't believe they're going to win this regional, but I do think they're not going to disgrace themselves, and they're going to show themselves proud.
Um,
Good.
let me go right quick. When they hired Mike Silva, I said Nicholls hit a home run. It's just the type of guy he is. He cares for his players. He wants the best for them, and he's a good people person, as you can see. And his coaching has been phenomenal wherever he's been. The pros, La Tech, in the Sun Belt. He's a good coach, and what he has done in 2 seasons at Nicholls is very, very magnificent. He got them to the semifinals last year of the Southland Conference Tournament, and this year got them to the finals, and they won. So he is making huge strides already just in 2 years with this baseball program. VK.
I think I agree with you on that, Jared. I think Coach Silva has done an unbelievable job meeting him in person. He seemed like he's a very, very humble man, but at the top of that, very passionate for his team. Very serious on trying to get his team to the next level and everything else. And in my opinion, do they have a shot in the Alabama region? Yes, because this is college baseball. This is the one sport that anything can happen. The top team can fall. But at the same time, Alabama, they are the team to beat. I do give Nicholls a chance in this one. Can they get it done? I think they can. That LSU victory is going to help them in this game. Remember, Alabama has been playing very, very well since the coach firing, and I give them that credit. But that tough schedule for Nicholls is going to help them. If you don't have a tough schedule, that's not going to help you in a region like this. I think Nicholls has a chance. If Alabama wins, don't be surprised. That will be a close game that could come down to the last inning.
And that is, I believe, the first game on Friday that they play.
Mhm.
Let me check. Yes.
June 2nd.
Let's see. Friday. Yep. June
All the
2nd,
regionals
Friday.
start Friday, Jared.
All of them. Okay.
Yeah, they're all going to go, weather permitting. It's June, so
Pop-up showers.
sometimes you get those rains and whatnot, but it's going to be fun times this weekend watching well, I won't be able to because duty calls this weekend, but it's going to be an interesting set of 16 regionals, and y'all mentioned where Nicholls is. I mean, and what awaits if they somehow get out. I don't want to say more than likely, but probably Wake Forest, who played in a brutal ACC conference, and Tom Walter, former UNO coach, is the head man there, done wonderful things at that school. And, there's some powerhouses not there this year. So could be interesting. I mean, I would love to see Nicholls get out VK, but and again, I don't think they'll disgrace themselves. Theoretically speaking, I'm not sure they have the wherewithal to pull this off. I think those teams are a little bit too tough for the liking. Bama in the SEC, Troy out of the Sun Belt, Boston College out of a very improved Big East. Y'all need to pay attention to that
ACC,
conference. They are on the come up.
Boston College, ACC.
ACC now. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
they used to be in the Big East back in the day. Okay, I guess I'm showing my age. But again, it's wide open, and the early favorite to win the national championship is Wake Forest. To win it. But there's a lot of teams that can make a case. I mean, you could pick any of the SEC teams. I don't know about any, but teams like Florida, Vandy, LSU. I don't know about Bama, but you can make a case for some teams to win this. And that's what's the beauty of college baseball, is that the tournament seems so wide open every year. And VK mentioned teams like, was it Coastal Carolina that won the national title a few years ago?
Carolina.
Not non-Power 5. Just
let me ask you this right quick. I'll start with you, VK.
Good. Yes.
I want to talk about Louisiana Lafayette. They're going to Coral Gables. They're going to take on Miami. That's the
Texas.
Miami region with Stanford and says Fayetteville.
I'm
No,
sorry.
Uh,
wrong.
yeah, that's definitely wrong from what I'm
Coral
reading.
Gables. Coral Gables.
Corrugate, but they play
Miami's
Miami.
the 1, Texas the 2, Lafayette's the 3, and I forgot who the 4 is.
Maine.
Maine, Black
Maine. Okay,
Bears.
cool. So Lafayette, they have Miami. Talk about them for a second before we move on. Go ahead, VK. Let's start with you.
Louisiana Lafayette has had a great season. Matt Deggs has done a great job with this program. This is the first NCAA berth for UL Lafayette since the passing of Tony Robichaux, the legend itself. And it's amazing what they have done this year. And for them to have a strong year, one of their big victories was at Alex Box Stadium. And then on top of that, getting to the conference championship after coming back out the losers bracket, and for them to push Southern Miss as much as they could, and Southern Miss proving to be the better team. But I think UL's tough schedule as well could help them, but it's going to be tough to get out of there. But I think they got a chance against Texas. I think they won't back Texas. It's going to be an interesting ball game in that one. And the Miami Hurricanes, they're trying to stay consistent and everything else. You know, I wouldn't be surprised. They might win big against Maine, but who knows? Miami better not come out flat.
George Peppers.
Listen, this regional is going to be power packed. I think Lafayette. I think the more impressive thing you want to see, VK touched on, they came out the losers bracket. Look who they had to beat twice. Coastal Carolina. They beat
Yeah.
them twice. That is the number. That is one of the best teams in the country. Okay, and this Lafayette team stepped up, and yeah, I think they ran out of gas against Southern Miss. No disgrace. I mean, look, Southern Miss is a team that's going to be a legit entity in their regional. Um, but that being said, when you look at this regional, this is not going to be easy. Texas is a quality Big 12 team, well coached. It's going to be a tough ask in that first game. It's 3-2, and you mentioned Miami. Look, maybe it's me, but I feel like the winner of 2-3 in that regional is the team that gets out. I mean, yeah, Miami's had a nice renaissance comeback season. It's their first time as a 1 seed in a long time. They've kind of gone into the island of irrelevancy for a little while. Miami has had some slippage. They have not been that program, and now they're taking steps to be that way. But I feel like the 2 and the 3 in this region of Texas and Lafayette are going to give some big time push. And I feel like one of those two could get out. And it wouldn't surprise me if one of those two do make their way out of it.
Okay. Now moving on. Last night, well, before I say that, Tulane's head coach Jay Uhlman will be joining us in about 30 minutes at 9:15. In about 30 minutes, we'll be joined by Jay Uhlman, the head coach of the Tulane baseball team.
And we can't forget about the region that they're playing in, because that's going to be interesting in itself, especially in the Baton Rouge region. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
I don't know if we want to talk about that now after
Let's,
Allman, but
we'll talk about it with Uhlman and maybe it's a little bit after.
Yeah, because I tell you that's interesting in itself, and I got an interesting take on that because
there you go.
You know,
most definitely. So last night we had a game 7 between Miami and the Boston Celtics, with the winner going to the NBA Finals, and it wasn't even close. Miami with a big win in Boston last night, and my good friend Mr. VK Jones here, he had a little something he wants to say, and we will see if George and I will have a rebuttal on what he has to say. But the floor is his.
Well, I got to say this right now. You know, congratulations to the Miami Heat, and I predicted the Heat and Nuggets going into the finals. I said it myself. This is a wide open in NBA playoffs right here this year. And for the Miami Heat, I put a statement up last night on social media. I said the greatest 8 seed ever. Some people said I'm overreactive to it and all that, but I have reservations, and I have the proof that I'm proving my point very clearly. Check these numbers out for size. You know what I'm saying? Let's compare the past 8 seeds of the NBA. A great 8 seed in itself. The first 8 seed upsetting the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets came out with a record and they was the 8 seed in a tough Western Conference of 42-40, which the 1 seed was the Seattle Supersonics, who was pretty good at 63-19. And for them to upset them and push the Denver Nuggets to 7 games and losing to the Utah Jazz to go to the Western Conference Finals. But at the time, Denver made a nice little run right there in a tough Western Conference. The other 8 seed, which went to the NBA Finals, the first 8 seed that went to the NBA Finals, the 1999 New York Knicks. Now, the New York Knicks, and you have to think, now back then at the time with the Denver Nuggets winning, it was a 5-game series back then. 5. This one here, and I think this was still a 5-game series when the Knicks was playing in 99. Now, the Knicks, they got by a good Miami Heat team with Alonzo Mourning and all. That's where the little scuffle came, and Jeff Van Gundy was dragging people's feet. But at the same time, they some way, somehow got it done in 5 games against the Miami Heat. The Knicks moved on, took on a good Atlanta Hawks team, which was healthy. And guess what happened? The Knicks took them down because what? The Atlanta Hawks being the Atlanta Hawks. They never fold. The Atlanta Hawks has never been to a finals since 1957 when it was in St. Louis. What that tell you? The Atlanta Hawks being the Atlanta Hawks. And then all of a sudden, the Knicks took on the Indiana Pacers, which should have went to the finals. The Knicks, some way, somehow, pulled off a win in Indiana, and all of a sudden it comes down to New York. Now, the Pacers, all they had to do, win that game in New York in Game 6. They forced Game 7 back in Indiana. Larry Johnson probably made the shot of his life, hitting a 3, and he was fouled. The Knicks goes to the finals. The Knicks goes down. They went to the Spurs. They played them hard, but the San Antonio Spurs, better team. They beat them in 5. So, going to now, the Milwaukee, this year, the Miami Heat. This is what I'm about to prove to you. First of all, the Miami Heat, with everybody healthy, Jimmy Butler, Gabe Vincent, Bam Adebayo, and everything else, when they were healthy, and some people say it was in the East Conference Finals last year. Different team this year. They were under 500 when they were healthy. Under 500. Remember, they were a 7 seed. And they lost to the Atlanta Hawks going to 8. And guess what? They was down to the Chicago Bulls in the play-in tournament with 3 minutes left to win. Think about that. A team that was under 500, a team that haven't played well, slipped up, didn't get a better seed, and now you at the bottom. So we go into the playoff first round. The Milwaukee Bucks, who had basically the best second half out of everybody in the NBA, and everybody played well, looked like a team that could win it all. And then all of a sudden, Antetokounmpo gets hurt, and then all of a sudden, the Bucks not playing the way they were supposed to play. And the Miami Heat took the energy, did what they had to do, and they beat the Bucks. And I believe what it was in 5 games, 6. I believe it was 5 games. Yeah, they beat them in 5 games, beating the 1 seed. And this is the difference with that because of the fact that in a 7-game series, not a 5-game series, 7-game series. So they beat up on the Bucks. Big upset. Then they followed up against the Knicks in a tough series. Very, very tough series against a Knicks team that has made the playoffs the year before. And then all of a sudden, they took them out in 6 games. Now, the Boston Celtics. The Boston Celtics, you think, the defending Eastern Conference champions, the number 2 seed. And people and critics saying, better all-around team. They should beat the Knicks. They should beat the Heat easy. It did not happen because you know why? The Celtics was playing under 500 in the second half of the season. Read between lines when you see something. There's problems. You see the problems throughout the playoffs for the Celtics. They're playing like they did in the second half. That's a problem. There's no killer instinct. None. And here's the thing, and I said the Heat should win one in Boston. They took two. They up 3-0. I give Boston credit for the comeback. But then all of a sudden, game 7, the Celtics got freaking trounced. Trounced in their house. It doesn't matter it took the energy or not. The Miami Heat took the defending conference champions down in 7 in their crib and won 3 out of the 4 in Boston. So how you like that? And one more thing, and I'm going to go ahead on and let you guys, this is going to prove more and more of this upset more than anything else. Now, for the Miami Heat, look at this. Caleb Martin had 26 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 turnover. And what's amazing also as well, the Miami Heat, 19-point victory in Game 7, the largest by a road team in conference finals history, the largest victory ever for a road team, tied for the 3rd largest in a conference finals in Game 7, tied for 5th largest by a road team in Game 7 in any round, tied 20th largest in any Game 7 in any round. And finally, the Miami Heat, the 3rd ever team with a negative point differential in the regular season to make the NBA Finals. The other two, the 1959 Minnesota Lakers and the 1957 St. Louis Hawks. Hash it out. Acknowledge me. Best 8 seed ever.
George, do you want to go first, or you want me to go first on this one?
I got this because I'm about to drop bombs. And I'm going to do what Putin has done to Ukraine over the last year. Now, if he's so kind as to zip the lip, my turn. It's my turn. Now I'm going to present the case. We are a family show, but if you remember the movie My Cousin Vinny, when Joe Pesci's opening line in the trial, what he said about the DA, I'm not going to repeat it because we're a family show. But I'm about to prove that theory correct. First of all, you said, VK, that the Boston Celtics played under 500 in the second half of the year. One, that is a mathematical impossibility because they went 28-13 in the last 41 games. Two, they were the number 2 seed in these playoffs. 3, you say that they're a better 8 seed than the New York Knicks. Let's flash back, gentlemen, to 1999. And I still hate you, Jared, because your Spurs beat my Knicks for the title. All right? But y'all were supposed to. You know, y'all had Duncan, y'all had Ginobili, Parker, and all those Hall of Famers, right?
We didn't have Parker Ginobili yet. Not that.
Oh no, you had
Avery Johnson.
Avery Johnson. Okay, I love Avery Johnson, by the way, as a player. I mean, that dude is. I know he was going to be a really good coach. All right, now where do we start? 1999. First of all, I'm going to use a little coach speak. It doesn't matter how many games you play in the first round, 5 to 7. As a matter of fact, in a 5-game series, the more pressure is on the chalk. Okay. Well, Tiffany, thank you. I'm about to. Sit back, girl. Get the popcorn and Pepsi ready. Here you go. All right. 99, the first round was 5 games. That's the only thing he got right. Okay. But, Jared, am I not correct in saying that in a shorter series, the pressure is lying on the favorite?
That's correct.
Correct?
Correct.
Okay. So if they slip, they lose. Now, let's recap the Knicks' trip to the finals. Oh, by the way, guess who was missing a majority of that run?
Patrick Ewing.
Oh, not just some Hall of Famer named Patrick Ewing. He missed most of that playoff. But the Knicks still got to the finals. They had the temerity, but they had a great inside game with Kurt Thomas and Campy and those guys. And yeah, BK mentioned Larry Johnson hitting that rainbow three against Indiana. Fine. That's good. Sometimes you need a little luck along the way. Now, New York beat Miami in the first round, and they beat an Atlanta Hawks team that was on the come up, but had some setbacks after that. In the Eastern Final, Indiana was a thorn in our side. You thought the Bulls were a thorn as a Knicks fan. I'm gonna speak. You thought the Bulls were a thorn, man. The Pacers were more of that. The one year they got beat by them. I swore that Knicks team was a championship team, but they got knocked out. All right, now that the Knicks have gotten to look, the season was a shorter season because of the labor stoppage. Correct? I think what did we lose about 30 something games? I think, or
Yeah.
something like
Yes.
that. But Jared, I'm going to ask you, as an 8 seed, regardless of the situation, you're up 3-0. You have game 4 in your house. There's no reason for that series to take it to 7. None. You lose game 4, you get blown out. You lose game 5 in a blowout. Oh, and you should have heard VK then. My God, I thought I was going to have to check him into a psych ward after they lost that game 5. Because he kept telling me game 6 is the one. Okay, Boston got a little lucky with that putback by Derek White. But 2 games, point made. 2 games the Heat lost at home with a chance to clinch. Now, granted, they won last night. VK conveniently forgot to mention Jason Tatum rolled his ankle on the first play of the game. Jason Tatum is the Celtics' arguably their best player, and he was obviously a shell of himself last night. Forgot to mention that though. To tell me that this Miami Heat team is the greatest 8 seed, lies, big lies. The New York Knicks, and look, this is the unbiased analysis of me. I am a Knicks fan, but I'm going to be fair. The Knicks of '99 were a better 8 seed than Miami, and I'll make this argument, Jared, and you can pick it up from here. The Indiana Pacers of '99 would have skull dragged the Celtics team of last night. That Pacers team was absolutely lit, and look how long it took New York to get rid of them. 7, right?
That's correct.
Took them 7 games to get rid of the Indiana Pacers, but that Pacers team would have beat this Celtics team,
Was it 6?
in my humble opinion. 6 games. That's right, because that 6th game was in New
York. Yep.
Excuse me. But all I'm saying is that Pacers team would have eviscerated this Boston team. And they had Larry Brown as their head coach. What do you think he would have done with Mazzullo? Come on, man. That would have been an X and O lesson out of the proportions. All I'm saying is that the New York Knicks of '99 were a better 8 seed. And if we're going to pick the finals, look, I don't know if y'all saw this, but the Nuggets are a minus 360 favorite to win. Vegas is telling you, and I'm going to tell you, if the Miami Heat get one game, the only game they can win is game 1. And the only reason I say that is because Denver will have had 11 days between games. They played on the 22nd when they swept LA. They won't play again until Thursday night. So that's 10 days. 10 days. Maybe a little, court rust or whatnot.
Right.
Once the Nuggets get going, Miami's roadkill. Look, I love Eric Spoelstra. I think he's an outstanding coach. He doesn't have to win this series to validate anything to me. Eric Spoelstra is an elite basketball coach, in my opinion. I just think that the Nuggets are playing at a level that is stratospherically higher than Miami will ever see. The Nuggets will win this series, and it'll be a quick and painless finish. Jared, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, sir. Mr. VK Jones, you came with a lot of stats, man, but we're about to break this down a little bit. Let me say something right quick. It's amazing when you go back to 1999 and what was the number one debate that people were talking about? Are the Knicks better without Patrick Ewing? Because they were winning games without their biggest star even playing. That's the number one thing we all have to remember. There was no Patrick Ewing playing at all. Kurt Thomas, Latrell Sprewell, Marcus Camby, Allen Houston. I still think John Starks is part of this team. I think Charlie Wall was still part of this team.
Mm-hmm.
They were winning games in these playoffs without Patrick Ewing. You got to remember that. Their biggest star. That right there says enough of it. And then the first round, 5 games against your arch rival, the Miami Heat at the time. Once Jordan and them were gone, the Heat became the rivals. We saw the fights. We saw the people picking up people and flipping them. It was crazy. They had a big-time rivalry. The shot Allen Houston hit in Game 5 in Miami. George, do you know what I'm talking about? That game winner that bounced like 3 times on the rim. Allen Houston. The win.
Starks wasn't on that team in '99.
No John Starks?
That went.
Okay, cool. They had Allen Houston though with the game.
Yeah,
winner
it was the
5.
shooter.
Yes, Allen Houston hits the game winner in Game 5.
On the road.
Miami ain't got no game winners at all these playoffs at all. Think about that. Game 5 with a game winner. Then you go play Atlanta, all right, and then you play the Indiana Pacers, who really were supposed to win that series. They won the next season because Patrick Ewing missed the layup. But, what's that, 98? Whatever. I don't care. I'm going to stick with 99. Stick with 99 right here. They beat the Pacers, okay, who lost to the Bulls a year before. The same Pacers team came back and lost to this Knicks team without who? Patrick Ewing. Patrick Ewing.
And the Pacers went to the finals the next year.
I know they did.
Okay.
I think that's the year Pat missed the layup. I think. Okay. I can't remember. Okay. I know he missed, and they beat the Knicks the following year. But that year, there's no Patrick Ewing.
Man, wait.
We
finished?
Wait, go. Talk for 10 minutes.
No, I'm not going to interrupt you. I thought you was finished. Go.
Oh, no. So, this Miami team, we got to remember this. Look, the Knicks got to the finals in 94 and lost to Houston in 7. Other than that, they couldn't get to the finals because of one man. And that was Michael Jordan. This Miami Heat team, they've been to the conference finals and now 2 NBA finals. Okay? So conference finals 3 out of 4 years. The NBA finals 2 out of 4. Okay? What did that tell you? With the same team pretty much. Okay? It's the same team. And they've been there. So they had a little struggle. Okay, cool. Throw the regular season out the window. And let's look at playoffs with them against the Celtics and them against the Heat. They battle them every time. It's a fight every time. Giannis got hurt this time. It went 5 games. But other than that, they are competitive with them. And they're getting to the conference finals and to the finals. So it's not like it's a surprise that the Miami Heat are in the finals. No. Conference finals last year, lost in 7. The bubble, I think they went 7 with Boston there to get to the finals.
Yep.
Yeah. This is nothing new. So if the Heat win the championship, okay, yes, let's say the greatest 8 seed of all time. Yes, they won the championship. But as of right now, I'm sticking with that 1999 New York Knicks. Why? Because they didn't have Patrick Ewing.
Well, I'm going to say this. Here's my thing, and I'm going to counteract that.
Okay.
Here's the thing. Yes, you make a good point about the Heat has been there. Okay. Where was Tyler Hero? Hurt most of the year.
Who?
Tyler Hero,
please,
who is coming back. He's been
don't even go there.
Oh, yes, I am going there.
You're not supposed to. Tyler Hero to Patrick Ewing, stop it.
Thank you, George. Thank you, George.
Hold on. No. You talk. No. I let y'all talk.
Okay, go ahead. Fire away.
My turn.
Watch this rebuttal, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, this is my rebuttal. What you're saying is a good point about Patrick Ewing. I respect that. But we got only 3 experienced players out of Bio, Lowry, and Butler. Everybody else, maybe except for Duncan Robinson, everybody else, Gage Vincent, Caleb Martin, all these other people, undrafted. Compare
You ain't got to
the
scream, bro. You ain't got to scream.
No, I'm saying that I want you to understand. Comparing to Charlie Ward, comparing to the Trail Sprewell, comparing to Larry Johnson, comparing to all these veterans that is on this Knicks team, and they did it without Patrick Ewing. Big time credit for all these veterans who've been there. The Heat ain't got that kind of team, and this is not the same team. Not the same team. I'm sorry. When you play under 500 with a healthy team, that's a problem. That is not the same team. It's season for season. When this team don't perform like they did the year before or like they did in the bubble and in the regular season, all of a sudden the playoffs, they turn up, experience what way they was looking in that matchup. That Bucks team can give the Indiana Pacers a time and a freaking half. And come on, man. Knowing how the Bucks was playing, no way in the world the Miami Heat had a chance. It'd have been competitive, yes, but I don't think they would have had a chance knowing this Bucks team. They should be in the finals knowing how they have played in the second half. They played basically almost 700 freaking basketball in the second half. And the way it was looking, it was ridiculous because the Bucks, the way they was looking, and we talked about this, Jared. We talked about this, George. It was like, this is ridiculous. This team should be the favorite. We thought Boston could get back. But Boston was so up and down because we seen them win against teams they supposed to, but then sometimes they lose teams they supposed to beat. And it got bad. They got blown out against some of the best. The best win of the year we seen from Boston was what, a 35-point win in Milwaukee? And that was it. We didn't see nothing else from the Celtics since. We didn't see Killer Instinct. That's the difference. And it's amazing that the Miami Heat, who's an 8 seed, going against the team that was the first 8 seed to win and be the 1, and that's the Denver Nuggets, who's now in the finals. This is amazing how things have turned around. All is right with the world right now. And I give a lot of props to the Denver Nuggets. I mean, they're just straight up put everything on the table and trust not just trust their process, kept that team together. And hey, they're in the finals, man. Denver is the better team. And I'm telling you, Denver's the better team. And if the Miami Heat push them to 6, remember, the Knicks lost the Spurs in 5. If the Heat don't win but pushes the Denver Nuggets to 6 or 7, that is considered the greatest 8 seed ever. I don't know what you think.
George, go ahead before I come back. Go ahead.
Look, first of all, I'm going to channel my inner Stephen A. To compare Tyler Herro and his absence to Patrick Ewing's absence, the blasphemy. Why are you making such a blasphemous statement? The ridiculousness of that statement is palpable. How dare you compare a shooter to a Hall of Famer?
He's a 50% shooter on a three-point line.
And Patrick Ewing is in the Hall of Fame. Hello? Patrick Ewing is in the Hall of Fame. What has Tyler Herro done?
Let George speak.
Okay. Now, if the Heat push the Nuggets to 6 or 7 games, it'll be on the guise of Eric Spoelstra. I just don't think they have the players or the temerity to do it. I think the fact that they're going to go into a high altitude setting for games 1 and 2, it's a recipe for disaster. They're going back to Miami down 2, and it's going to put all the pressure on a Heat team that has not played from behind in these playoffs. Now, let's make this argument, Jared. If the Heat are such the greatest 8 seed, let me make this argument. In Game 6 of the Knicks series, Jalen Brunson's got the ball down 2. If he doesn't turn this thing over and they tie it and they find a way to win it, are we even having this discussion? No, because the Knicks would have went to MSG and handled their business in Game 7. Why? Because they played more consistent. They were a young, hungry group and played very well. And Thibodeau,
I'll say this.
Say a lot of,
I'll say this.
Go ahead.
Julius Randle was a disappearing act.
He was.
Yeah.
He was, and I think the Knicks are going to move on from him in the offseason.
I said I freaking said that on the show. I said that. And you thought I was crazy.
I'm gonna do the Miz now. Quiet on the set.
Okay, I'm gonna be quiet, but I'm just saying.
I'm just goofing with you.
I know.
But
I did say that.
look. The argument is this. I don't think this thing goes. If the Heat do win a game in this final, it'll be one of the two games in Miami. Remember, the format is now 2-2-1-1-1. It's not 2-3-2 like it was a few years ago. It is now 2-2-1-1-1, which puts the onus on the Heat to try to steal one in Denver. And like I said, the only game they can potentially win would be game one, because as I mentioned in the earlier part of this argument, Denver hasn't played since May 22nd. That's 10 days. So they may have court rust coming out. But once the Nuggets get their sea legs about them, row series over. Denver will win comfortably. And Mike Malone, nobody's talking about Mike Malone, Jared. Nobody. Mike Malone is an outstanding basketball coach
Yes,
that's
he
going to
is.
get his just desserts in this final by winning his first title. And that man has put in a lot of work and gotten the Nuggets to this point. They've never been to a final in their history. Here they are. The moment's not too big. Jokic is going to dominate. Nuggets win this series for fun.
All right, my turn. 2020 roster. Bam Adebayo, still there. Kyle Alexander, I don't know where he's at. Jimmy Butler, still there. Main two guys are still there. Okay, your main two. Okay. Jay Crowder was there. He's gone. Goran Dragic was there. He's gone. Haslam, he's still there. Player coach. Tyler Hero, he's still there. Solomon Hill, gone. Hey, Andre Iguodala, gone, retiring this year. James Johnson, general manager for the Phoenix Suns. Derrick Jones Jr., gone. Miles Leonard, gone. Daryl Macon, gone. Kendrick Nunn, gone. KZ Okpala, gone. Kelly Olynyk, I think he's someone else. Hey, Duncan Robinson was there in 2020. He's still there. Chris Silva, he's gone. Hey, Gabe Vincent was there in 2020. How you like that? He's still there.
And they ain't play a damn minute.
Hey. He's earned his way to get on the court.
He earned his way now, but he did not play a minute.
Oh, I know he didn't play. I know he was there.
Count. He was on
Deion Walters. Deion Waiters was on that team too. It's not there no more. And Justice Winslow, the Duke player, who knows where he's at. So yeah, the main core of the team is still there. There's some other outside pieces. Caleb Martin's there now. You got Strus there. You got some shooters. That's okay. But still, I don't know how you can compare Tyler Hero to Patrick Ewing. I mean, they're winning without Tyler Hero, but I don't think it's a big time discrepancy like what Patrick Ewing was, like their main player. Like, oh God, what are they gonna do without Patrick Ewing? And man, the team's just rolling without Patrick Ewing. It's a major discrepancy. Patrick Ewing compared to Tyler Hero.
Well, look at their roster for the Knicks. Regardless of the fact,
I get it.
I know is
wait. Quiet on the set, like George said. Quiet on the set. I get what you're saying with the roster with Charlie Ward, Allen Houston, Latrell Sprewell, Marcus Camby, Kurt Thomas. Yeah, I get it.
You forgot Larry Johnson.
Yeah, him too. Larry Johnson. I get what you're saying. Look at that roster. Okay, good. But who was the centerpiece of that roster? Patrick Ewing was the centerpiece. The offense ran through Patrick Ewing. He was the centerpiece. Miami, who is the centerpiece? Not no goddamn Tyler Hero. That is Jimmy Butler.
It's Jimmy Butler. But at the same time,
quiet on the set. I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna let you go in 2 minutes. I'll let you go in a minute. It's Jimmy Butler. Period. You can't compare Hero to Patrick Ewing. I'll give it back to you.
All I know, the reason why I'm is it's not about it's about what you do more with less. And Miami has done it. They have done more with less than the Knicks ever had. Think about that. Done with less. Compare. The Knicks had more experience than you ever have, comparing to when you had Jimmy Butler and Adebayo and probably Hero and the other guys. And you have undrafted people coming off the bench scoring for you. Caleb Martin, remember, a double-double, undrafted in a game 7. What happens when you do more with less? That's a lot. That's a lot. Comparing to that, that's a lot. I'm just saying, bro. It's just
George, let me ask you this
I
question.
respect your opinion, but that's just how I
Oh,
look at
we
it.
respect yours too. Don't mean we agree with it, but we respect yours.
No.
Yeah.
George, let
Go
me
ahead,
ask
sir.
you.
Gonna respect that. I already
George,
know.
let me ask you this question because he's talking
Talk
about
to me.
experience that the Knicks had. In the 90s, how many finals did the Knicks go to?
1.
How many finals have the Miami Heat been to since 2020?
They went to the final in the bubble, and they're going this year. So 2.
Oh, that's all I gotta say. Now,
Point made. Point made. Gotcha.
Now we're gonna bring in our next guest. This guy here is the head coach of the Tulane Green Wave baseball team, and he has them going to the NCAA Baseball Tournament. We have Coach Jay Uhlman. Coach, thank you for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm awesome. I appreciate y'all having me.
Definitely. We are happy to have you on. Coach, a 19-40 record. You guys go into the tournament. Your team showed nothing but resiliency and perseverance, and you guys won the AAC Conference Tournament Championship. Talk about your team's resiliency throughout this season by not quitting at all this whole season.
Well, we've had more adversity in the course of 56 games than I care to have ever again in my life. It's been the most unbelievable and unique season, in 26 years of doing this. A lot of things that have happened that I've never seen happen that have gone against us. Oftentimes it felt like Groundhog's Day. But this group just continued to plug away. We continue to have a consistent message, treated them in a manner, oftentimes when you're having struggles and adversity hits you, I think it's, a lot of times people can fall into condescending patterns, treating guys poorly, blaming, quitting, just kind of those kinds of things. But, when I first got this job, I had waited, my first job, I was a head coach at my old junior college, which is a tradition-rich program, much like Tulane, and a lot of big leaguers, a lot of success, championships, and so forth. And so this is no different. And I had waited a long time and to get my turn again. And I had promised myself that I wouldn't change whether we were winning or losing, that I was going to do my very best to be kind of the same figure and have continuity. And I think that's really important in a leadership position, especially if things go poorly, because everybody's looking at you. And I think if you panic, if you show doubt, a lack of confidence, I think those things show up and manifest itself in your team. And, regardless of the outcome, I knew how diligent our guys worked, how much they wanted it. We were just really raw. We had lost 2/3 of our starting rotation to the transfer portal in the coaching change. We lost our All-American catcher, what you could consider the AAC Player of the Year. He didn't get it, but Ethan Groff, our center fielder, he left, went to Ole Miss. We lost our closer to Georgia. So we lost a lot of pieces that we were unable to, you can't just go into the portal, although it feels like you can go into the portal and just pick whatever you want. It's not a surplus store, so to speak, that, all these All-Americans are sitting in necessarily. There are really good players, our opponent this week got a guy named Tommy White. And so there are some of those guys that are in there, but for the most part, you're talking about trying to replace guys with experience with guys that maybe didn't have as much experience. So, I had to go in the portal and get a few guys and so forth. So we're just really young and inexperienced, and it takes time for those things to happen. And when you have a fan base that's used to winning and been to Omaha and has had a lot of success over the years, there tends to sometimes not be patience, and I get that. That's part of being a fan and all those kind of things. But I knew from the inside what our guys were doing and what they were about, and baseball is a game of averages, and we started off so poorly. From top to bottom. I mean, it was not just one guy. It was the whole group really struggled at the beginning. And I think we lost our confidence and lost our way a little bit. And so it was really on us to kind of try to keep this thing moving in a positive direction. And we hung in there long enough. And, of course, when the tournament shows up, I think we went through the whole, conference slate, and I think we understood as a club that there was no real separation. I didn't feel like, and I don't think our players felt like, and I certainly communicated that with them, that I didn't feel like there was a real separation of programs from the top to the bottom. I didn't think anybody had 3 elite starters, and I didn't think anybody had enough bullpen or closers that anyone was unbeatable. And so when we got to the conference tournament, I just continued to push that message and of belief, and hey, you guys can do this, but you got to want to do it, and we've got to be purposeful and intentful, and this is going to come down to your will and wanting the big moments, because the big moments are going to happen. And they really wanted this, and this was one of their goals, like everybody else should have, and they do have, to win the conference tournament, because that in our conference is the only way to get the automatic bid. So they came with a renewed sense of urgency and focus, and to win 4 games out of 5 in the tournament is really an accomplishment, and they did that. Everybody else had the same opportunity as we did. We happened to be healthy, and we happened to get breaks, which we hadn't gotten all year, and so it made it that much more meaningful at the end of the trail when we the last out fell in Brady Hebert's glove in left field, and this euphoria poured out of our dugout of, a season's long frustration of not getting what we wanted, and then finally getting what we wanted at the most opportune time of the season. And so just really a spectacular moment that, we'll all remember for the rest of our lives. And like I told them today at practice, this is, I said, do you guys want this to be over? You guys satisfied with just winning this, or you guys want to keep going, and they were all intentful again, and believable, and saying they want this to continue. So that's where we're at. And it was a magical run for 5 days. And it was always in there. It was just we just, for whatever reason, couldn't just finish it off on a weekend in our conference. We were in position to win every conference series except one, and like I said, we just weren't able to finish it off. But when you leave air in the lungs of somebody, sometimes they come back to life, and that's what happened.
You talked about you mentioned quickly about the last out in the euphoria. What were the emotions you were going through when you saw the last out?
Yeah, I was, our ops director, Curtis Akey, and I mauled each other, and it was just, you always knew that the possibility was there, and to have those guys go through the season they did, and us too, and our families and our friends and the people that care about the program and were really supportive. You just kind of, all of those emotions come out all at once, that we did this, and we're going to, live to fight another day. I think those were kind of the prevailing thoughts.
How was it being able to watch the selection show with all of your players and even the special guest, who I assume was mostly family of the players? How was that like?
Yeah, it was, those are the things that are really special. And I've been through several of them, and it's different when you're going versus you're on the bubble and you're not sure. So there's always different emotions that way. But before the week started, if you would have told me we would win the conference tournament and be able to go to the postseason, and you have to go, play on the moon, I don't care, we'd go, and so our ability to just be able to watch that and know we were going somewhere and just figuring out where we were going, it was a really nice deal. And our athletic department set up a really nice situation with our fans and our families and our student athletes. So it's just a really nice moment for everybody.
You're headed to the Baton Rouge region. You're playing LSU, also Oregon State and Sam Houston State are also in this region. What can you say about this region? It seems pretty tough. You've played LSU early in the year. What can you say?
Yeah, it's, if you look at the brackets, I think it's certainly one of the toughest ones out there. We have familiarity with LSU. We played them earlier in the year. I thought we played them tough for the most part, and they separated themselves a little bit as the game continued on, and got into our bullpen and so forth. So a midweek game is always different from a weekend game, just because usually a midweek game is a battle of the bullpens, and the separators for us is, our bullpens maybe not necessarily as deep as others, but so we got familiarity there. I'm also familiar with Coach Jay Johnson, who's a friend I've known from my West Coast days. And I'm very familiar with Oregon State because I spent 10 years as associate head coach at the University of Oregon. And that's Oregon State and Oregon are huge rivals. And so I'm keenly aware of their abilities and the things that they do and the success that their program has had over the years. And then a Sam Houston State who Jay Sirianni coaches. He's a West Coast guy as well. They're going to be well coached and tough. And, they come from a hard-nosed conference, the Western Athletic Conference, where, I actually coached at the University of Nevada, which was in the WAC at the time. And so
Right.
Rice, who won the national championship in 2003, and then Fresno State in 2008. So that conference has a tradition of winning as well. So, and the thing about our region too is, like I told our guys today, 64 teams remain. Not every team in our 64 teams all won a tournament. There's a skill and a attitude to winning a tournament. 2 of the 4 in our regional did not win. LSU did not win their conference tournament, and Oregon State didn't win their conference tournament, but Sam Houston and Tulane did. So, there's some advantage to that where you have to go through the rigors of, 4 or 5 games. Regional's a little bit different. You only have to, if you win out, you win 3 and that's it. But, you're going to have to go into the den and have a packed house, which is really exciting for every reason. I mean, that's why you play the game, to play in environments like that. And so we're excited for that. And we've been preparing for that kind of thing. So we're just looking forward to the opportunity to get out and compete again and do what we can do to try to, shock the world, and why not us again?
BK.
Coach, man, it's good to see you up in here, man. What a first year for you, man. I tell you, you went through a whole lot. We talked a little bit about it, but my goodness, I got to congratulate you.
Thank you.
I want to ask the first question. My first question to you is this. What was your on the mind of yourself and your players before the conference tournament? Because it seems like the players looked like they was a little more looser, a little more relaxed and everything else. And it seems like everything started to come together right in the beginning of the tournament.
Yeah, the week before we played on a short week, because our last conference week. So typically you play a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3-game series in conference. The last week of conference is always an abbreviated week. We, instead of playing Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they move everything up to Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So you can travel on Saturday or Sunday, have a practice day on Monday in Clearwater, and then everybody plays game 1 on Tuesday. So that's particularly challenging for your pitching staff, especially when you're not a deep pitching staff. And so, we lost 2 of 3 at Memphis. We got 10-run ruled in 2 games in the Thursday, Saturday game, and we beat them decisively in the middle game, but a lot of that was a result of us trying to manage our pitching staff so that we could be in position for our 2 best starters to have a full week's rest on a shortened pitch count, instead of throwing those guys 100 pitches to win that game and then have them unavailable for the opening 1 or 2 games of the tournament. We shortened their pitch count down. We pitched them both, our 2 aces, both on the same day, and then just kind of did it by committee the other 2 games. And at that point, we weren't competing for a regular season championship. The seeding had pretty much already been determined. So there wasn't any, I mean, you always play to win the game. And I want to make that crystal clear. You're not trying to lose games, and we certainly weren't. What we were most concerned with is how are we going to position ourselves to give ourselves the best chance to win this tournament, because that was the only way we were going to get in. And so that's kind of how we navigated it. And we communicated that with our players, and they understood the situation, and our pitchers understood. And so we went about that. And, you start the season 0-0 when you're in a conference tournament. And I think they looked forward to that opportunity. They realized, even though the season didn't treat us the way we wanted it to, that they truly still had a chance to get what they wanted out of this thing by just really committing to a full week's of mentality and effort and intent and purposeful intent. And so, I continued to pound home that message, and they continued to drink from the fountain, so to speak. And so, we just stayed the course that way. And you win one game and clear, in our tournament, you win the first game, you get a day off, and then you play the following day. So every game you win, the day off becomes huge for a lot of reasons: your mind, your body, and then your bullpen. So we were able to win on Tuesday, have Wednesday off, come back Thursday. Other teams that we played, the team we played on Thursday had to play on Wednesday. They didn't get a day off, and so we're at an advantage. So we win that game, we get another day off, and we don't play again until Saturday. So all the other teams pretty much were using a lot of bullets, and we were not. We were rested, and our spirits were good. And when you get that, baseball's a fragile mental game. If you think you are, you are. And what I mean by that is if you think you're tired, you're going to be tired. If you think you're fresh, you're going to be fresh. If you believe you're going to hit this guy, you got a better chance to hit the guy. And so it's such a mental game. And I think that really set us up for a successful run, is being able to, win a game and get a day off. It was a big component to us being able to get what we wanted.
Seemed like your players are oozing with confidence going into this game against LSU coming up. The way they're talking, they seem like they really believe in themselves after the tournament, and they really want to try to win this thing on Friday more than anything else. Do you think this was a big blessing for y'all to go into the Baton Rouge region instead of being maybe in North Carolina or somewhere at another top seed and playing against the 5 seed?
Oh, yeah. I mean, LSU was number one most of the year, and we, like I said, we played them. And so we're acutely aware of how talented they are in all spots, And so, I mean, at this point of the season, to be honest with you, everybody's going to be a good team. They're going to have good pitching, and they're going to have good offense, and they're probably mostly cohesive. And so, you're going to have your hands full. And so part of the reason I scheduled the way I scheduled this year, which, our schedule ended up being the 6th toughest schedule in the country, 6th. And part of the reason we did that was to try to prepare for these kinds of things, because you're going to have to go on the road. You're going to have to play in unfriendly confines. You're going to have to be in a hotel in a way, and you're going to have to do things that are uncomfortable. And, it really, we really struggled with that part of it this year. And obviously I, look in the mirror and, question my own self, at times, like, maybe I should have softened a little bit and not tried to play such a difficult schedule. But, if you're winning that difficult schedule, the RPI is great and you're really feeling great. And, and I just had done it for so many years where I had been in places where we played an okay, non-conference schedule. And then we get in the conference and we had faced difficulties and we hadn't responded and didn't get the results that we wanted. So I just felt like within our conference, I felt like I wanted to prepare us for those kind of things. So when we got to conference, I thought we would be tougher and we would, get the benefits of that tough scheduling. And we didn't realize it was going to take until the end of the year to figure that out. And, and so here we are, and wherever we, ended up in terms of a regional, it really didn't matter. We get to extend our season, and you're going to have to beat somebody good wherever it is you want to go, through a regional, into a super regional, through a super regional, into Omaha, and winning it all, you're going to play really good teams. So, it doesn't really matter. And we're, like I said, we're well aware of the challenge that LSU is going to present to us.
I'm gonna ask you this, and I'm gonna let George take over. George Peppers take over the questions and everything. Two quick things. One, your tell us about your players, a couple of your best players that have really stood out lately for you, that's
Yep.
really stepped up for you, and also your thoughts on the athletic year for Tulane. I mean, it started with the football season and it kept going.
Yep.
Some good success all around football, basketball, golf, all the way down to your baseball team winning conference. Your thoughts on how this breakout year for Tulane has gone?
Yeah, I appreciate that acknowledgement of our the kind of year that we've had in our department. But let me start with your first question. There's a couple of our players. If you're just talking about the tournament, the tournament most valuable player was T.O. Banks. He's had a phenomenal. The first, I would say, month of the season was really difficult for him. When conference kicked in, he really got going and played like the player that I believed he was when I recruited him. And he's been spectacular. Gavin Scholes had our shortstop had a great, from Holy Cross here in New Orleans. He had a great tournament, struggled a lot, probably put too much pressure on himself to try to do too much for the club. But he found the friendly confines of Clearwater, which he had a good tournament last year. He turned around and had a good tournament this year. He was also all tournament. And then a couple of our pitchers, of course, our two starters, Dylan Carmouche and Ricky Castro, have really done a nice job for us, giving us a chance to win a series every single weekend that they pitch. So just old, mature, and tough and competitive. So, I'd say those four guys right now. And, there's a host of others, Brendan Lambert and Brady Marquette on the offensive side. And, like a Michael Fowler out of the bullpen, and then just with regards to your question about the athletic year, I mean, I couldn't be happier for our football program. They went 2-12 the year before and turned that around into a Cotton Bowl championship, which my staff and I and our whole athletic department actually got to go witness live and in person. So
Me too.
just a tremendous year for them. And here's what I would tell you. And I've said this anytime anybody asks me about the program, but in particular that team, is they are so well deserving of all the success that they had. I mean, Dorian Williams and Nick Anderson, our boy Pratt behind center, and just a whole host of those guys, Larry Brooks, and just Tajay Spears, just guys. And here's the thing about those guys: they're not just really good football players. They're unbelievable human beings. Dorian Williams, Nick Anderson, Mandel, Eugene, he came out, Larry Brooks, they came out to watch my 10-year-old's Little League game. My 10-year-old asked those guys, hey, come out to my Little League game. And I tried to tell them, like, look, those guys are busy, man. They're not going to show up. If they do, it'd be unbelievable. But I don't want you to, get let down. And sure enough, here comes our four guys coming up, and they come to watch them. And it wasn't just my kid. It was a lot of kids, and it was a lot of the community. And, I just watched a thing on the Saints rookie deal, and Nick Anderson had an opportunity to speak, and he just nailed his interview, and which is not a surprise. But it's not just that small select group of guys. Jaquan Jackson's an unbelievable human being. Tyreek James, all those guys, that group of football players, and all my years of being associated with Division I athletics. A special group of kids, man, just unbelievable human beings and really great football players. So we were really happy for them. And they were well deserving of that. Not to mention the staff's job that they did. And then, Coach Hunter and his basketball program, and they're making waves, and our tennis programs and our golf programs, and our track and fields on the up and up. And, Coach Stockton and her gals on the court, she's been a stalwart at Tulane, and Mark Boris and his tennis program. And so just a lot of our bowling and our sailing, and national championship sailing. And so, it's been a special year. And I'm going to say this, I worked at the University of Oregon, and I've been at Kansas and Nevada. And I would tell you that, we don't sponsor 30 sports. People don't get lost in the building. There is a real cohesiveness and celebratory tone when people do well. And that I would tell you from year to year at other places, that's not always the same. There are times when that shows up, but I would tell you that the folks in our building, coaches to coaches, very supportive and authentic and organic, just a really cool deal that I think gets overlooked within the scheme of college athletics when there's a lot of money and a lot of, lot at stake when it comes to coaching, and everybody kind of wants to hoard and have their own things. And, jealousy prevails at times, but our coaches are really truly special people. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
Coach Uhlman, first of all, congratulations on winning the AAC and making the NCAA tournament.
Thank you.
And also thank you for giving us the time at this hour to join us for this. Obviously, it's going to be a busy week for you with media and, of course, the regional. But I'm guessing you're going to embrace it. It's a good thing for Willow Street.
Thing.
Absolutely. That being said, I want to extrapolate on the schedule that you guys played this year. You played UC Irvine the first week. Then you had the LA Classic with UCLA and USC.
Yep.
And then you had a series with Campbell, Penn, Washington. By the way, those three teams, Campbell, Penn, and Washington, made the tournament. Campbell arguably could have been a regional host. And, UC Irvine just missed out on the tournament. I'm wondering if you stole the bid from them. They were 38-17, but you know what? I don't think I would care if I were you.
We may have.
You may have, but who cares? You're in the tournament. That's you. It's all good. But my first question, your strength of schedule is 36. You just mentioned about overscheduling. It sounded like you were like, I don't think I want to do this again. How do you think that those glut of games that you played compared with the toughness of the AAC prepared you for this week?
Yeah, Dan, you said, it's 36. That is what's crazy is that's the overall strength of schedule.
Yes.
Our non-conference strength of schedule was 8, which is even more ridiculous.
Crazy.
Yeah, it is. And, I think it'll be toned down, I think, a little bit next year. I'm not adverse to doing that from time to time because, I just remember as a player when I was recruited, John Savage, who's the head coach at UCLA, won a national championship there for them and was a national champion at USC as an assistant. He recruited me to Nevada. And I'll always remember, the year before I got there, they had the best year of of Nevada's program history, and they played a really great schedule. And I remember him sending me clips back when like newspapers were actually relevant. He would actually cut out the newspaper clips and send them via mail, snail mail. And I would get those. And I remember the impact that it had on me. Like, look at these guys. They're playing this schedule. I get to come home and play. I'm a California kid. And so I would look at that and say like, yeah, good. I get to come home and play Cal State Fullerton and Long Beach State and rub it in their face that they didn't, offer me or recruit me and chip on my shoulder. So like the impact the schedule had on me as a player, I just remember I want to play those teams. Like I want to play Stanford. I want to play, UCLA and USC like that. I want a piece of that. Like that motivates me, and that was such a strong message for me that I wanted to make sure that if I got in that position, I could provide that for our players because, I think if you're going to become the best, you got to play against the best. And sometimes that means getting your teeth kicked in, but getting your teeth kicked in serves a lot of different purposes, and, with a little less patience in the sports world today for getting your teeth kicked in and trying to rebound from those kind of things. And so I get that part of it too, but, at the same time, learning to get punched, and then learning how to absorb a punch and then get back up and go like, okay, here it comes, whack somebody back, those are powerful things. And so those the kinds of things, if you can absorb those and survive those, they can build you confidence. And so I just have that in my blood. Like I want to compete against the best. And I want our players to want that too. And so those opportunities are great. But then the other purpose it serves is we have such a diverse, eclectic group of people from everywhere. When you have an $84,000 price of school, you can't just fish in the backwoods of Louisiana and get people to pay $84,000. So, we've got 11 kids from our state, but that leaves, 24 others that we got to go out and get. And so we got to find people that can pay, that can pass, and that can play. And so those people come from all over the country. And, I worked at Oregon for 10 years, and that's about as national of a brand as you can get. And we were regional. We weren't all that national. And so we are national at Tulane because we have to be. And so we have alumni from everywhere. And I thought, hey, another byproduct of this is we get to take our show on the road, and people can break out their Tulane gear and come out to UC Irvine or UCLA or Hawaii or, wherever, and they can be proud, and we did have a good group of alumni following when we went out there to all those places. And so, I think there's some goodwill that's served by doing that. And you certainly winning creates goodwill. And when you're losing, you've got to really work overtime to try to keep that goodwill. That's the negative part of that. But, like I said, you'll probably see a little bit of a softening schedule of the next year, so to speak. But again, it's scheduling is done so far in advance that it's hard to really predict how teams are going to end up. You could schedule a team 3 years in advance that you think's maybe soft, and then they end up really good, or you think they're really good and they end up soft, and so it's an inexact science, and you just try to do your best to balance home and away scheduling. And the thing I don't think I did very well was create a midweek fallback position when we played these tough weekend schedules to try to put ourselves in position to get up off the mat and have some quote easy wins, or games that you felt like were winnable. We come off the road to LA of USC and UCLA and Sacramento State, and come back to play a 2-game midweek against Campbell. Shame on me, I guess, but at the same time, we almost won a game or two against them, and it's a really good club. And so I think when your players see that you're right on the cusp of certain things, and it doesn't kill you, it only makes you stronger, so to speak, then those things can help. And I'm trying to build a program, not just survive.
Of course. And two players that were instrumental in your success in the tournament, Dylan Carmouche gave you, I believe, 15 innings throughout the tournament, which is really incredible. But I wanted to talk more about Teo Banks. In the month of May and in the tournament, he's hit 8 home runs, 3 in the tournament, 8 in the month of May. What did you see in him what adjustments did you help him out with to tap into a little bit of power?
Teo's always had power. I mean, he is an electric human being. He's thin-waisted. He's long. He's athletic. He's got levers. He runs. He throws. He's got a plus arm. He's ultra competitive. He came from Permian High School in Odessa, Texas, which was also the of Friday Night Lights. He played linebacker.
Yeah.
He's a blue-collar kid. He's old school. His parents are old school in terms of the loyalty piece and toughness. And so I really appreciate them at a high level, and love the kid to death. He's one of my favorite kids I've ever coached, and not just because he's hit 18 homers, but just because of who he is and the way he goes about it. But, he's one of those guys as a hitter. He's hard to tinker with, because there are certain guys that have such athleticism that they know how to do it without you having to tell them. Like, it almost makes it worse for them when you try to do things. And so, we tinkered a little bit with a leg kick early in the fall, and it kind of went okay, and he kind of liked it, and he stayed with it, and it didn't get off to a good start with it. So we just went right back to, looking at stuff that he was doing last year. And so, he quieted down his leg kick and went, really low leg stride to the ground, and just really tried to keep it simple and just use his athleticism and his hand-eye coordination and competitiveness. And, it really worked for him, because, excuse my voice, I was yelling quite a bit this weekend, but he's one of those guys that can just really changed the game with a swing or a play. And, he just wanted to go, we just went back to the basics with him. And he went from, early in the year, baseball is difficult. Hitting is probably the most difficult thing to do in sports, a moving object, different planes, and you got a round object trying to hit a round ball, and the pitcher standing on an elevated surface. And in the military, they always talk about the high ground wins. Well, that's where the pitcher stands. He's standing on high ground, so he's automatically at an advantage. So early in the season with Tio, you look up and it's like 0-2, and he's chasing a fastball above his hands, and then he's chasing the slider out of the box, in the other box in the dirt, and it's 0-2. And when you're hitting from 0-2 all the time, that's a tough place to be. And then all of a sudden, kind of just, he stopped chasing as much. He started getting leverage counts, and then he started making guys pay, and then pitchers started getting scared. And that's how those things end up working, and it, becomes contagious. And I think once he started going, we all kind of started going, because we were all the guys were pretty much slumping at the same time, except for Brady Margett, who has had a pretty consistent year from start to finish. So Tio's a special human. He's a special talent, and we're really fortunate to have him.
And before I ask this next question, just to point out a little factoid to my co-host, 3 of the last 4 Tulane head coaches have taken their team to the NCAA tournament their first year. Rick Jones, David Pierce, and now Jay Uhlman. That's a big accomplishment in your first year, considering the schedule that you played. But let's talk about the tournament itself now. You go to Baton Rouge, and you're playing LSU. Obviously, the players that they talk, that are the headline guys, Dylan Cruz and Skeens, the ace pitcher. What are your impressions of that LSU team? And then break down the other 2 teams in that regional, Oregon State and Sam Houston State, who are both of the highest quality as well.
Yeah, LSU, from top to bottom through their lineup, it's just, it's there's no rest. You have to, there are no off. There's no outs in the lineup, so to speak, to where you can just kind of let your guard down and know that you're going to throw it over the plate and you're not going to get hurt. That doesn't exist. So, you've got to pitch effectively. And you need to play good, solid defense, and that's any component of championship baseball. You got to pitch well and play defense, and offense can come and go, and but you got to be able to do that. And it's no different with them. They can hurt you with the long ball, and they will hurt you with the long ball. And so, making sure that we are collecting the outs that we get is going to be really critical, because it's not the solo homer that beats you. It's the walk or the hit by pitch or the error before it that really, takes the momentum out of you. Pitching wise, I think they're a lot like if you look around the country, we can complain about bullpens and, all these kind of things, but I think nationally, it's pretty much an epidemic. I think programs all across the country are having trouble having sustained success from the mound for whatever reason this year. I don't know if it's the balls, the bats, whatever it is, but I would tell you this, it reminds me a lot of when I was playing in 95 and 97, where, that kind of that gorilla ball era where pitchers would make great pitches and a guy would hit one off his front foot and the ball would go, 500 feet and it's a homer, and games are 20-15 and pitchers ERAs are in the 7s and 6s. And if you had a staff ERA under 5, you were a hell of a pitching coach, and if you had anything under like a 300 batting average as a team, you were a terrible hitting coach. And for a good bit of years here, frequently the shoe was on the other foot. Pitchers and pitching coaches dominated, and hitters and hitting coaches suffered. So you're starting to see a reemergence of the offense for whatever reason. And I think from their standpoint, I think that's their bullpen and their back end starters have been problematic for them too. And, so I would say that's kind of a report on them, and, they're going to be well coached, Jay and Wes and Josh Jordan and Mark Wanaka, they do a great job, and they're great coaches, and those guys will be prepared. So, and that's across the board for this entire regional. These guys are going to be well coached and prepared. So, Oregon State, that I've known, I'm very familiar with that program, having, like I said, 10 years at the University of Oregon. Oregon State is our bitter rivals. So when I got to Tulane and trying to figure out the lay of the land. And I soon, at least in the baseball community, figured out that LSU and Tulane are, big rivals over the years. It's the feelings of those things are pretty similar to Oregon State. So I get that part. But Oregon State's going to be, they're going to be tough and blue collared, and typically they pitch well, and they can manufacture. They'll play a West Coast style of baseball. It's not going to be, swing for the fences all the time. You're going to have to defend against the short game, and you're going to have to stop their running game, and you're going to have to, they're going to maybe give you some outs here and there, and you'll have to collect them, and they'll try to play momentum offense. So, and their pitching staffs typically, they'll try to pitch off the fastball, and more so in the West than in the South. In the West Coast style of baseball, oftentimes is pitching backwards, 2-0 getting off speed pitches, or 1-1, 2-2 getting off speed, and, getting off speed when you're thinking fastball, and vice versa, getting fastballs when you're thinking off speed. So that's kind of, their deal. You're talking about another program between LSU, Tulane, and Oregon State. You're talking about a lot of trips to Omaha, a lot of pride and prestige and tradition, and those kind of things. So there's going to be a lot of alumni that are proud, for sure. And then you got a school like Sam Houston that is gritty and tough, and comes from a conference that's widespread. They've had a lot of travel, so this travel is not going to be anything new to them. And again, they're going to be well coached, and they're going to play a gritty style of baseball, and they're not going to be afraid of the moment either. So you're going to have, 4 teams that are, that are tough, and and very competitive. So it's going to be, it's one of the better NCAA regional brackets going.
For me, I'm going to turn this over to Jared, but I just want to make one final comment to you. Something tells me you guys are not going to be intimidated, considering the atmospheres that you've already played in. You get the first game on Friday at 2 o'clock in Baton Rouge against LSU. I don't think you're going to disgrace yourselves. I think you guys are going to put on a performance and continue the momentum for the regional. I just want to wish you and your group the very best of luck in the NCAA tournament, Coach. Thank you for joining us. But I'm going to turn it over to my host, Jared Boyd. Jared, it's all yours.
Thank you, George.
Thank you,
Coach. We wish you the best of luck this weekend in the Baton Rouge Regional. Also, congratulations on winning the AAC Conference Tournament. And thank you for joining us, Coach. We truly appreciate it.
Thank you, Coach. I appreciate y'all's time, and for you guys having me on here. It's an honor. I appreciate y'all.
Definitely. Thank you.
Absolutely. Have a good one. Good luck in Baton Rouge.
See y'all. Thank you.
All right, Coach. That is Coach Jay Uhlman, Tulane Green Wave. Quickly, guys, so we can get out of here.
Yes.
Your thoughts of Tulane going to the Baton Rouge Regional, ZK?
It's a blessing for them because they didn't have to go to North Carolina or go to the West Coast against Stanford or anybody else. For them to not go that far, take a 60-minute drive to go out there, it's going to be interesting in itself. They seem like they're not going to be intimidated. They're going to give LSU a time. They're going to give LSU a real time. They do have a chance more than anything else because of their tough schedule and everything else. But this is going to be a very interesting region in itself. It's a region LSU could win, but it's not going to be easy with these 4 teams. Not at all. But if LSU some way, somehow gets out this region, guess what? They host it, and guess who might be waiting? It could be Kentucky, it could be West Virginia, or it could be Indiana that comes to Baton Rouge. So that could be advantage maybe to LSU, but LSU has some holes that they have to fix quickly coming into this region.
George Peppers.
Listen, as far as the regional itself, LSU is the favorite, but Oregon State's got the pedigree and the wherewithal to potentially put a real scare into them. And don't underestimate Sam Houston. The Bearcats are coming out of the WAC. Remember, they were a former Southland member. They've now played in the WAC, and they ran through that conference like a hot knife through butter and got the job done in the tournament. Here they are in Baton Rouge. Tulane, look, 1 week stretches usually do not portend success in the NCAA tournament. I mean, I love the fact that this team got hot late and won the AAC, but in all reality, I feel, and look, I wish, with all the sincerity in the world, I wish Jay Uhlman the best. I just don't see a way where Tulane finds a way to get out of this regional. It's an interesting regional, but LSU's no cinch. But they are the favorites. And if they get out, if LSU does get out, VK mentioned who's on the other side. Kentucky, West Virginia, Indiana's coming out of an underrated Big Ten. That Big Ten conference is not a bad conference. They've been on the move. So I'm not saying they'll get out. I don't know. I think LSU would be the favorite in that regional, in that super. It's in Baton Rouge, but they've been known to lose to teams that were quote inferior to them. So it's no give me that LSU gets to Omaha. They could, but they're gonna have a time with this regional this weekend.
All I'm gonna say is Tulane is hot at the right time.
Correct.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Agree.
We think
Oregon State scares me to death in that region.
well, they should.
Oregon State scares me to death
They should.
because they've been there.
They've been there, yes. Well, we thank everyone who joined us today. We thank each and every one of y'all for tuning in. Tomorrow, 8:15, we're gonna step out of Louisiana for a little minute, okay? And we're going to Tallahassee, Florida. Well, we're gonna have a sit down right here where you can join us with the running backs coach and recruiting coordinator for Florida State University football team, David Johnson. Yes, Coach David Johnson, who is from New Orleans. So he's going to be with us tomorrow. We're going to talk to him about his coaching career, his playing career, and talk about some Florida State football, especially the game on September 2nd, Florida State LSU in Orlando, Florida. We will talk about that.
And he also has a new book as well.
Yeah, the book. Oh, well, we got to talk about the book too then.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have Coach David Johnson tomorrow, so please tune in tomorrow. We'll be back tomorrow for Coach Jay Uhlman, for Coach Mike Silva, for my co-hosts VK Jones and George Peppers. I'm JB, your sports guy. We'll be back here tomorrow, 8:15. Until then, y'all take care.